On our pilgrimage to southern England this summer, Paul and I were privileged to view many old and lovely stone cathedrals. The one in Coventry was the most unique because two very different structures, including one in ruins, made up the cathedral. On the morning we arrived, we stepped off our tour bus, or they call them coaches, and a welcome rain shower was just beginning to break up. We had a bit of time before our tour, so Paul and I scurried across the street to a building that housed a small museum. There was one picture among the displays that both shook me up and caught my imagination. It was taken right after the bombing of November 1940. The black and white photo showed that the cathedral was in ruin. The background displayed stone rubble with wispy smoke from the attack, still ascending upwards, among several shadowy, indistinct figures in the background. But in the foreground, the camera caught one person, a woman in an old winter coat, looking around her. I found myself wondering what she must have been thinking, what questions were swirling in her mind. Had she just heard the same November gospel we just heard, where one stone was not left on another? In our gospel, when the disciples gaze upon the temple of Jerusalem with Jesus, they see permanence. What large stones and what large buildings. It has been speculated that some of those foundation stones weighed as much as 1,000,000 pounds. It must have been shocking to hear Jesus, the one to redeem and restore Israel, reply that not one stone will be left here upon another. All will be thrown down. In the very hour when the disciples exulted in the apparent permanency of their glorious temple, Jesus startled them by foretelling its utter destruction, which within 40 years was fulfilled to the letter. Sitting on the Mount of Olives across from the temple, he warned them and then talked about the beginning of birth pangs, alluding to something new. On the night of November 14, 1940, German airplanes dropped over 4,000 firebombs on the city of Coventry, killing thousands of people and destroying large parts of that city, including the beloved medieval cathedral. But the legacy of Coventry as a city of peace and reconciliation also began that year, when the provost at the cathedral urged people not to seek revenge, but to forgive not only the Germans, but also all humanity for the scourge of war. After the war, he initiated reconciliation links with cities in Germany, starting with Dresden, a place where thousands had died in the firebombing of that city by the Allied forces. Successive provosts of the cathedral have continued and expanded on that work, organizing joint British and German work projects, youth exchanges, and many other peace-related programs. One priest put it this way: in the final analysis, for us the question of why bad things happen to good people changes or transforms itself into some very different questions. No longer asking why something happened, but asking how we will respond and what we intend to do now that it has happened. The people of Coventry did just that and birthed something new from the destruction. Today, they are still known for their international work in world peace and reconciliation. Whether on the large scale of a temple or a cathedral, or on a smaller, more personal scale, we can all relate to events in our lives and lives of others that seemingly leave tumbled stones all around. Cataclysmic events can happen within a family, a relationship, a community. At last week's convention, we were among those who were currently in the midst of the effects and disaster of devastating fires. And we began exploring together short and long-term ideas for recovery that called for making connections and strengthening relationships beyond the physical walls of the church. For in the end, the permanence we all long for lies not in physical things we build. As we turn these last final pages of the church year, we have witnessed many examples of where the foundations around us have seemed to crumble. But we also know an end can be the birth of something new. What seems broken now will one day be made whole again. As people of faith, that is our belief and our witness. We carry on with the work of justice and reconciliation, no matter how hard the job may be, because we believe that is how we do our part for the greater plan of healing. We are the people of hope, the people of vision, the people of the Spirit. We do it because we know in our hearts that what seems broken now will one day be made whole again. Father David, in his series on listening Tuesday evenings, has been encouraging us in the important work of becoming better listeners. Deeply listening to one another is a powerful thing. But the flip side of listening to others is the knowledge that others are listening to us. Both inside and outside these buildings, people are in need of help and hope, and they are listening. The poor are listening for the word of justice to give them hope. The abused and broken are listening for the healing sound of mercy. The fearful are listening for a word of truth that can set them free. The lonely and those in need are listening to the sound of a caring heart. And I want to give a shout out right now to Anna Smithler for her caring heart. And last Sunday's timely idea, starting the campfire gift card drive for those in Paradise who've experienced great loss. And thank you, congregation, because over $1,200 has been collected and more is coming in. So many people are listening. But what are they hearing? Break their silence with the word and the sound of the words the Spirit has given you. Speak hope and mercy. Speak out for justice and truth. Whether it is buildings or walls, we humans love to construct things that we believe will endure the test of time and outlive our mortal lives. We like to see the illusion of permanence. However, Jesus reminds us that in fact, nothing we construct will endure forever. Only God is forever. Everything else changes. And yes, and yet, in God we are held steady in the divine, eternal changelessness, even as the world moves around us. Later, our final hymn will send us out into the world and has some powerful words to help us remember that true permanence. Let us build a house where love can dwell and all can safely live. A place where saints and children tell how hearts learn to forgive, build of hopes and dreams and visions, rock of faith and vault of grace. Here the love of Christ shall end divisions. All are welcome. All are welcome. All are